What's up, Raider Nation? Today is March 29, 2019, and welcome to another edition of the Will to Win. I guess it's going to be podcast eventually, broadcast. Like I said, I'm working on this intro, guys. So today is March 29, 2019. My name is Jason Smith, also known as The Knight. I'll be your host today. Let's get in, man. I got a lot to do in a short time to do it. So I just really want to jump on here and I want to cover some things. You know, I promised some draft talk. I'm going to give that to you today. I also promised a surprise, but I'm going to have to renege on that promise because I just totally don't have the time to try to get this thing to work. It takes a lot of setup and I don't have the time today. I'm sorry, Raider Nation, but look for it Monday. Hopefully we'll see. We'll try to get that thing rolling next week. But let's try to end off this week with a high note. So yesterday, actually, after I got off air the other day, we talked about Isaiah Crowell coming in, and I noticed that Brandon Marshall was due for a visit as well. As everybody already knows, we signed both of them. And again, I think there's great opportunity for one and a great opportunity for someone to teach for the other. So Isaiah Crowell, we talked about him coming in. I think he can make a big impact. $2.5 million. You know, his numbers with the Jets last year, 6 touchdowns. He averaged about 4.78 yards per carry, 143 carries for 600 and some odd yards. Like, this guy has the potential. Go ahead and say goodbye to Doug Martin. He will not be signed back. I know Marshawn Lynch is still a possible signing, but let's keep this in mind. I mean, technically, if they wanted to, if Doug Martin wanted to come back at the right price, it's still a possibility because that's one of the things I want to cover, and I'll get into that in a second. Brandon Marshall from the Broncos, another off-the-ball linebacker. I think it's a great move. But again, I believe that Brandon Marshall and both Vontaze Burfict are two guys that are just coming in teacher roles. You know, they're both one-year deals. We're paying Brandon Marshall up to about $4.1 million. That's not saying a whole lot because it's up to. So none of that is guaranteed. Whether they make it through camp, whether they make this roster or not, is kind of irrelevant to me. I'm really, really happy to have them on the roster. Linebacker, it has been a great need for this team since Greg Biekert. I mean, Kurt Morrison. You know, there's been some decent linebackers that have come through this organization, but nothing that really stuck, nothing that really turned out to anything. We even tried drafting Rolando McClain. That didn't work. Seal Moore ended up being, I mean, he showed a lot of potential. He just ended up with a bad attitude. He got challenged. And he started disrespecting coaches. Allegedly spit on Jack Del Rio, whether that's true or not. So, I mean, we've had some opportunities here. Just nothing's ever panned out. So I really believe that we're going to address that position in the draft. I'm just not exactly sure how it's going to play out. None of us do. And we'll get into that. Back to what I was saying about the running back situation. You got to remember, we carry 90 people on this roster. 90 going into training camp. As of the other day, when I was doing quick math, I counted up 67 players that are on the roster right now. That left us room for 23. We just grabbed 2 more. So now we have about 21 spots right now. We have 8 picks in the draft. And we get a whole bunch of undrafted free agents that we bring in. There's going to be a lot of movement still to come. There's some people that are on the roster right now that might not even make it into camp. They're constantly going to be moving around this roster from here all the way until training camp starts. So it's something to keep an eye on. And what I was talking about Marshawn Lynch, right? DeAndre Washington is not John Gruden's top dog. I mean, he could literally let DeAndre Washington go as a free agent. That frees up another running back spot. Crowell fits that mold. I believe that he keeps Jalen Richard for camp. I believe it's going to be a competition between Jalen Richard and Crowell. It'll be interesting to see that one take fold. Chris Warren's obviously in the mix. I'm sure they're hoping for Marshawn Lynch to come back. I've shared with you guys my feelings. You know, I know if we bring him back, I just kind of feel like it's forced. I feel like it's forced for the city of Oakland to give them something to root for, especially now, this pretty much being our last year in the league. So again, I just want to see us make smart decisions. I don't think we need Marshawn Lynch at this point to sell tickets. I think that having guys like Antonio Brown on this football team will sell tickets. And the bottom line is we just need to win, baby. Winning cures a lot of problems. And if we could just win football games, that's going to bring people in to watch this team play in Oakland, in Vegas, in Timbuktu. It doesn't matter. You just have to win games and the fans follow. Anyways, let's move on. So let's go back to some of these draft numbers. I got some more draft numbers here I want to go over with you guys. And I want to talk a little bit of draft philosophy. This time, every time that I'm on and I'm doing shows around this time, I like to cover basis with this, kind of my philosophy. My philosophy has no bearing to what Mayock and Gruden are planning. If I had it like that, I'd be right next to them, helping them call their shots. And trust me, I don't. A lot of people always talk about best player available. And I'm down with that. That's what it's about. It's about getting, especially in the first round, you have to take the best player available. There's only so much top talent that has the most guarantee, and nothing's ever guaranteed in the NFL. There's a reason why a lot of people say the NFL stands for not for long. I mean, you have a short window to prove yourself, roughly 3 years, to really make a name for yourself, no matter where you're drafted. And then it's time to move on. That's why we have that 5th-year option. It's one of the reasons. I mean, it buys you time to save money, but it also gives you an option, a way out, if that first-round pick is not panning out for you. So, again, first player, a lot of people say, well, we have a lot of needs. We got to go needs. Yeah, we do. I mean, this is an opportunity. A lot of the times that's what they try to do in free agency. And if you look at what they did, they're standing true to code. And we're going to go over the numbers to show that they stayed true to what they said. They said they were going to buy an offense and build a defense. Why? One of the reasons why is John Gruden has proven in the past that he can take older players and build an offense. He's done it before. He's confident in himself. He knows if he has certain pieces that he likes, certain pieces that he knows that he could work with, we could be dynamic on offense. And I think that the pieces are really starting to line up again on paper. We rebuilt this offensive line a little bit. We got some guys coming back into their second year. I know a lot of people give Colton Miller and Parker kind of a bad rap for some of their performances last year, but it's not always easy going from college to the NFL. Some people transition really well. Others, it takes a couple of years. Some take 3 years, and the rest of them, they just fall off the map. And we don't have that judgment call on these guys yet. We have to see what year 2 brings. They also say you get your biggest jump in understanding the NFL from year 1 to year 2. And they have a good understanding of what you are by year 3. So Miller and Parker still have an opportunity here to find their home on this offensive line. They're both big guys. We brought in Trent Brown. We still got Gabe Jackson. We still got Rodney Hudson. So hopefully it all works out. Tom Cable can figure this thing out, turn into the Tom Cable of old. He's lost a lot. He doesn't seem to have that he used to have. I hear a lot of people talk about it. He's on the hot seat. Let's see if that fires him up a little bit. We brought in some receivers that I think are dynamic in Williams and Brown. We got to address the tight end issue, and I'm going to get into that in a second here. And then the running back, it's like running back by committee at this point. I think there's some talent there. I do think that we look to the draft to find someone maybe in the 4th or 5th round. That's maybe where we look for a running back. We'll have to wait and see. But as far as drafting your best player available or drafting need, I think we're in a very good spot in this draft, because this draft is fully loaded with defensive players, especially at the front end of this draft. I mean, it's about the defensive pass rusher, our biggest need. All reports say Kyler Murray's going to Arizona. Your top 3 pass rushers, defensive line players, in my opinion, right now in this draft is pretty easy. It's Nick Bosa, it's Josh Allen, and Keenan Williams. You take your pick of which one you like. It doesn't really matter to me. I think they're all top notch. If I really had to pick my guy, it'd be Keenan Williams. And I know that we have plenty of defensive tackles right now, but again, best player available. I think this guy brings the most impact. In worst case scenarios, what do? You trade Justin Jelly Ellis. He's been around a while. I think he's expendable. I really do, especially if you're bringing a guy like Keenan Williams to play against, with Mo Hurst. You still got Hall, right? You still got Hankins. Maybe Hankins is out. Maybe you're able to keep Justin Jelly Ellis and you add Keenan Williams to the mix and you let Hankins walk. That's what you do in the draft. You hope a guy like Farrell's back there at 24. Maybe you grab him late. There's more options back into the end of that round. So you take the best player available at that spot. And the good thing is with those three players is all signs point to Kyler Murray going to Arizona, which means all three of those players, you're guaranteed one of them at that point. I'm not ruling out that they try to trade back and grab more draft picks. Not ruling that out at all. But you're guaranteed one of those three players at 4 if Kyler Murray goes to Arizona. And if Kyler Murray goes to Arizona, the heat is going to be turned up on Haskins big time. So there's potential that someone jumps up to that San Francisco spot at number 2. And that will allow us to get one. We'll have our choice of 2 at that point, 2 of those pass rushers. Right. So even if Nick Bosa's off the board, you still get to choose now between Josh Allen and Keenan Williams. And at that point, it's up to Gruden, Mayock, and Gunther. I mean, they got to battle that out themselves in the room. I'll be happy. Like I said, I still say Keenan Williams all day, but hey, like I said, that's a Mayock, Gruden, and Gunther call at that point. But either way, we come out really, really, really good with that 4th round pick. Now, I've seen a lot of things coming out on Twitter. Guys, I'm really trying to work Twitter. I don't know what I'm doing, man. I'm one of those guys that don't like to be late to the party. And I just, with my vision impairment, being legally blind, I don't necessarily write the fastest or, and I notice it's a lot about, post this up. Who posted this up first? And I just need to get over it and just post what I want to post on there, retweet what I want to retweet on there and give my opinion. I get it. I'm trying to understand how that works at this point, but a lot of times I just find myself reading what's on there and just building my own opinion and keeping it to myself. I need to be more active on Twitter. I'm going to attempt once again to do so, but on there, I've been noticing a lot of these mock drafts. People are getting irritated with these mock drafts. I think it's funny. I mean, if you feel like doing a mock draft, man, go do a mock draft. It's not for me, but go ahead, do a mock draft. But I noticed that people must be getting bored and they're just like, some of these guys are just picking the Raiders, still picking quarterback, maybe even going a wide receiver with that 4th all-around pick. And I'm just scratching my head like, are you – at this point, you just got to be bored, right? There's just no way. And the reason, like, the proof is there. I guarantee you 2 of our first 3 picks in the first round are going to be defensive players. Just hands down, it's going to be defense. I mean, all 3 could end up being defense. I think the only thing that changes that for me anyway is if we have an opportunity to grab one of those Iowa tight ends. I think that definitely is something that we need to think about doing. But it's pretty simple because Gruden and them flat out said, we're going to buy an offense right now. We're going to build a defense to the draft. And it shows on paper. I mean, the idea is to try to build the best, most balanced football team that you can build. And right now, we need defense. If you look at the numbers, so like we're roughly around $188 million in cap that you have. We roughly have, especially I don't have the exact numbers now that we added Marshall and Crowell. And by the way, big shout out to overthecap.com for all these numbers. But when I was looking at this, right, and I didn't get into the special team numbers they had on there and stuff, I was just focusing on offense and defense. So offensively right now, without Crowell's money, which would be up to about 2.5, we have spent $112,771,717 on offense alone. Our defensive numbers is $50,569,064. Does that seem balanced to you at all? I'm just saying. And even if we were to draft all defense, it's obviously going to be one-sided. We're going to be an offensive football team. Okay, we got to let some of these defensive players grow into their roles, and our goal is by adding guys like Burfict and Marshall and LaMarcus Joyner and having some guys that have been around. We're going to have a young defensive line, guys. I mean, it's just the facts. Our cornerbacks, Conley looked really well. I mean, there's potential there, but come on, it's going to be a little suspect for a little bit. I mean, I'm hoping for the best, man. I'm definitely not being negative here, guys, at all. But when you look at that numbers, man, I mean, really, I mean, those numbers speak for themselves, right? I mean, you're totally looking at 112 million versus 50 million. 112 million dollars invested on offense and only 50 million. Like that number's got to change if you're going to be least balanced. And I'm okay being an offensive football team, right? I trust in John Gruden. We've seen what he can do before. And obviously he's given Derek Carr no excuses, right? Spend $112 million. And I get it. 20 million of that alone is Derek himself, but things got to change, man. Things got to happen. And those numbers spell a big time defensive draft, if you ask me. Now, you do not ignore the offense at all. You have to address it. I still say they look for a tight end. You try to grab another wide receiver. You definitely should kick the tires on a running back. A lot of people feel that we should be looking for the future quarterback just in case Derek Carr don't pan out. If the pick is there, sure, why not? I'm not against it. I know we have 4 quarterbacks on the roster, but once again, they're not safe. Got 4 arms right now. You could easily let 1 or 2 go, bring in another guy. But we got 2 first-round picks next year, if need be, to go get a quarterback next year. The thing is, how much do you really believe that Carr is going to take this to the next level? And if Gruden feels that that's the way it is, then you can address that next year. You don't have to necessarily address it right now. If you feel that you want to be prepared for that, then you may look, even as early as the second round, I guess. But again, I personally wouldn't. I think there's so much talent on defense, and that's what we need. I'm going to reiterate it again one more time. 112 million versus 50 million. And that, granted, this is before the Marshall pickup, but I mean, you also signed Crowell, and you paid more for Marshall than you did Crowell, so it'll catch up a little bit, but man, that's a big gap. That's a huge gap. You're talking about $60 million difference. Okay. So it's going to be a defensive heavy draft. Just buckle down and beware. We need defensive depth. We need defensive players, period. And we definitely, you hear Gruden and them talk about it last year. We need to create a pass rush. So there's no way we're going to ignore one of those top 3 guys with that 4th overall pick. We will take calls. We will try to move back to get more picks because we need players. But I think you go pass rusher there. Period. But I'm excited, man. It's been a long time since we had this opportunity. And I think it's been a long time since we had talent evaluators like we do right now, especially with Mike Mayock in the room. I think that's huge. I think it's also huge that they get along philosophy-wise. They speak the same language when it comes to football. I think that helps a lot. I'm excited to see that moving forward. So, I mean, we're a month away. We're essentially a month away from figuring out where we're going to sit on paper. You guys already know my motto. I'm not going to repeat it at this point. I'm sure it'll come up again after the draft, heading into training camp. But right now, we are primed and set to draft defense, guys. We need it. The numbers speak it. I think they've done an excellent job. I heard someone mention their philosophy on age and how they were going to even attack free agency. And if you notice the guys that they actually paid guaranteed money to and they actually gave like 3-year contracts to, they fit the criteria, right? Guys like Antonio Brown and Trent Brown and Tyrell Williams and LaMarcus Joyner, they all got contracts that fit exactly what we were looking for. All the other guys are 1-year deals with a lot of incentives. So they're being very cautious on who they bring in. They're just not going out and overspending, and they're not just bringing in whoever they want and just loading up this team with age for the long haul. They're bringing in some gap players to help build a young defense. Because when you think about it, the exception of Crowell, I mean, they're 1-year players on defense. You got some linebackers right now that are going to help energize this football team, give them some veteran leadership, which I think is needed. And then we'll see where it lands. I believe, though, I definitely would like to see Keenan Williams on this football team. But if you gave me one of those other 2, Bosa, Allen, I'm cool with it, man. Trust me. But it's going to go that way. If I was in Vegas, I'd be a betting man. I'd probably put money on it, but I'm not there yet. So All right, guys, it looks like my time is up. I got a big conference we're putting on here. Anybody in the 559 area, we have a freedom conference going on here at Lightbridge Community Church. You should come check it out. It starts tonight. Registration's at 6:30. It's free. We also have 3 sessions going on tomorrow, starting at 9 o'clock, going till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you're from the 559, you're looking to take care of some things in your life, come check out the Freedom Conference. All right, Raider Nation, I got to go. I will see you guys Monday. And until then, you guys stay Raider strong.